Good evening, everyone. They're panicking, not dramatically, not publicly, in private spaces where they check themselves in mirror before bed, in quiet moments driving alone, in middle of conversations with other people when their mind wanders back to you, they're experiencing growing dread, the slow building realization that window might be closing, that your patience might have limits, that silence or distance or inconsistency they've shown might have cost them what they didn't mean to lose. Because they know what they've done, or more accurately, what they haven't done. The texts they didn't send, the calls they didn't make, the effort they didn't demonstrate, the clarity they didn't provide, the consistency they didn't maintain, the showing up they promised themselves they'd do but kept postponing. And now, when time has passed, when patterns of their behavior have accumulated, when your energy toward them has shifted in ways they can feel even without direct communication, they're recognizing consequences. They're understanding that taking you for granted might equal losing you. And that understanding is creating urgency, is making them question every assumption they made. She's patient, so I have time becomes, what if patience ran out? He understands, so he'll wait, becomes, what if understanding turned to indifference? They know I care even if I don't show it, becomes, what if showing it was requirement, not optional? The prayer, I pray you haven't given up on me, is desperate hope mixed with terrified awareness that giving up might be reasonable response to what they've provided, might be healthy response even, might be necessary response to protect yourself from continued disappointment. Here's what your person reveals about connection. Your person means specific individual, someone who matters to you or mattered, someone whose presence in your life was significant, someone whose absence creates void, someone you've invested in emotionally, whether relationship was official or undefined. Could be romantic interest who's been inconsistent, who shows intensity then disappears, who creates connection then creates distance, who makes you feel chosen then makes you feel optional, who demonstrates interest then demonstrates nothing. And their inconsistency has been hurting you, has been creating confusion, has been making you question whether pursuing them is worth the emotional whiplash, whether waiting for them to get consistent is realistic or delusional. You've been considering walking away, or you've already started walking, or you've mentally prepared yourself for ending this, for accepting that whatever this isn't becoming what you hoped it would become. Could be EX who ended things or who you ended with, who created distance, who hasn't reached out even though time has passed, who's been maintaining separation you're not sure serves anyone anymore. And that separation has been teaching both, has been creating perspective, has been showing what life without each other actually looks like versus what imagination suggested it would look like. And they're discovering that life without you isn't better, isn't relief, isn't freedom, is absence of something irreplaceable, is missing what they took for granted. is recognizing too late maybe that what they had was what they wanted. Could be friend who's been distant, who pulled back, who stopped showing up, who let connection fade through neglect, not active choice, who got busy or overwhelmed or caught in their own life and let your connection become casualty. And that distance created gap, created you building life without them, created you finding other connections, created you not needing them the way you used to need them. And they're noticing that shift, are feeling your decreased investment, are recognizing they might have lost friend who mattered more than they realized while they were taking friendship for granted. What I pray reveals about their desperation. Pray isn't casual hoping, is urgent asking, is turning to something universe, God, fate, karma, whatever they believe in because their own efforts feel insufficient, because control they thought they had doesn't exist, because outcome they want isn't guaranteed. Prayer happens when stakes are high, when loss feels imminent, when person realizes they can't force outcome they want, when all they can do is hope and ask and plead with forces beyond their control. That prayer reveals value, reveals you matter enough that losing you feels catastrophic, not just unfortunate, reveals connection is significant enough to warrant desperation, not just mild disappointment. But prayer also reveals they haven't acted yet, haven't reached out directly, haven't communicated this urgency to you, are still in internal space of hoping and fearing without bridging into actual communication. That gap between feeling urgency and acting on urgency is telling, is them still paralyzed by whatever has kept them from showing up consistently, is them wanting different outcome without yet creating different actions that would produce different outcome. What you haven't given up on me reveals about their awareness. Given up means they understand you've been holding on, have been waiting, have been hoping, have been patient, have been maintaining space for them in your life or your heart despite reasons to close that space. And they're aware that holding on has cost you, has required patience you might not maintain indefinitely, has created pain through uncertainty, has made you question yourself, has made you feel foolish, maybe for continuing to care when evidence suggests you shouldn't. On me means they recognize they're the problem, they're the variable, they're the one whose behavior created situation where giving up is reasonable option. They're the one who needs to change. They're the one whose actions or lack of actions created this urgency. That recognition that ownership is significant means they're not blaming you, not making your patience or impatience the issue, not making this about your expectations being unreasonable. They're recognizing their failure to meet reasonable expectations, their failure to show up, their creation of conditions where giving up is self-protective response. This reflection invites you to consider, who is your person? Who have you been patient with, waiting for, holding space for despite inconsistency? If someone immediately came to mind, that's probably who this message is about. That's the person who's experiencing this urgency. That's the connection this applies to. If multiple people came to mind, notice which one creates strong just feeling. That's likely the primary one. This reflection invites you to consider, Have you given up, or are you in process of giving up? If you've already given up, if you've closed door, if you've moved on emotionally, if you're genuinely done there, panic is too late, and that's valid. That's consequence they created through their choices. If you're in process, if you're close to giving up but haven't completely, if their small window still open, their urgency is approaching deadline, is last chance territory. If you haven't, if you're still holding space despite pain, their urgency is accurate, you haven't given up but you're hurting. And they need to know that. What you should do knowing their urgency, don't immediately reach out to reassure them. Don't rescue them from discomfort of uncertainty. Don't make your move to ease their panic when their moves have been absent. Let them sit with urgency. Let panic motivate action. Let fear of loss create change in behavior. Let consequence of their patterns be experienced, not dissolved, through your accommodation. Reaching out to reassure prevents them from learning, prevents natural consequence, prevents urgency from creating behavioral change. If they're actually afraid of losing, you let that fear drive them to do something different, to reach out themselves, to demonstrate change through action, not just feel urgency internally. Decide what you'd need to not give up if you haven't already. What would restore your willingness to stay? What would need to change? What would need to be demonstrated? I'd need consistency for 3 months. I'd need clarity about what we are. I'd need effort that matches mine. I'd need communication when they're struggling instead of disappearing. I'd need apology that acknowledges specific harms. Knowing your requirements prepares you, helps you assess if they deliver something, whether it's adequate, prevents accepting less than you need because relief, they finally showed up, overrides discernment. If they do reach out, if urgency translates to action, listen without immediately accepting, hear what they're offering, assess whether actions match words, notice whether they're taking responsibility or making excuses. Good reaching out. I know I've been inconsistent. I know that's hurt you. I understand why you'd be done. I want to do differently. Here's specifically what I'm committing to. Can we talk about what you need? Bad reaching out. I miss you. I hope you're not mad. I've been busy, struggling, dealing with stuff. Can we just pick up where we left off? Good acknowledges harm, takes responsibility, offers specific change, asks what you need, centers repair, not just reconnection. Bad minimizes harm, makes excuses, offers vague sentiment, assumes you'll just accept them back without addressing what went wrong. Response to good. I appreciate your honesty. I need to see sustained change before I can trust this. I'm willing to talk, but I need clarity and consistency. Response to bad. I need more than apology. I need to understand what's changing. I need to see different behavior before I can consider reconnecting. Either way, your boundaries matter. Your needs matter. Their urgency doesn't obligate your immediate forgiveness or trust or willingness to continue. If you have given up, if you're genuinely done, communicate that. If they reach out, don't leave them in ambiguity. Don't let hope linger when hope is misplaced. I appreciate you reaching out, but I've moved on. The window closed. I wish you well, but I'm not available for reconnecting. Clear closure serves both. Lets them grieve and move forward. Lets you maintain boundary without guilt. What their panic doesn't change. Doesn't change past behavior. Doesn't undo hurt they caused. Doesn't erase confusion they created. Doesn't repair damage from inconsistency. Doesn't restore trust that was broken. Panic is feeling, possibly genuine feeling, but feeling doesn't equal changed behavior, doesn't guarantee different outcome, doesn't prove they're capable of sustaining different approach. Their panic might be real and they might still repeat patterns, might be genuine fear of loss, and they might still not have done work to change patterns that created risk of loss. Watch behavior over time, not just initial burst of effort. Sustained change, consistent demonstration, proof that urgency translated to actual transformation, not just temporary performance. Doesn't mean you owe them another chance. Urgency doesn't create obligation. Fear of loss doesn't entitle them to your continued patience. Panic doesn't mean you have to stay or return or give more time. You're allowed to be done, allowed to decide window closed, allowed to protect yourself from repeated disappointment, allowed to say, I gave what I could give and it wasn't enough to make you show up consistently, so I'm choosing differently now. Their panic is their experience. Your healing is yours. Those can be separate. Your peace matters more than their comfort with losing you. The power is yours. It always has been. Urgent message from your person. I pray you haven't given up on me. And if panic is real, if urgency is genuine, if fear of loss is motivating them, they need to demonstrate it through action, not just prayer, through reaching out, not just hoping, through sustained change, not just temporary effort. And your job is deciding what you'd need to stay if you haven't given up, maintaining boundaries if you have, and recognizing their urgency doesn't obligate your forgiveness, their panic doesn't guarantee changed behavior, and your peace matters more than their comfort with consequences. Take what resonates, softly release the rest. Trust yourself. And listen, you've been patient. You've been waiting. You've been holding space. You've been hoping they'd get consistent, hoping they'd show up, hoping they'd match your effort. And that patience, that waiting has cost you, has hurt you, has made you question yourself, has made you wonder if you're fool for continuing to care. You're not fool. You're human. You care about someone who matters. You hoped connection would become what it seemed it could become. But patience has limits. Waiting has expiration. Holding space eventually requires person to actually occupy that space. If they don't, if urgency stays internal, if prayer doesn't become action, if panic doesn't translate to sustained change, close the door. Not with anger necessarily, just with clarity, with recognition that you deserve someone who shows up without needing panic to motivate them, who chooses you consistently, not just when losing you feels imminent. You deserve better than being almost lost before being properly valued. If they show up, if urgency creates actual change, assess carefully, give time, not just chance, watch patterns, not just promises. Then decide based on evidence, not hope.